Welcome to the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. It also offers distance learning through the Open University System. Quality, responsive, and relevant education as a tool. PUP, the first Polytechnic University.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to this presentation on the purpose and importance of training needs analysis in executive leadership development. This falls under the course Executive Training and Development for Educational Managers under the guidance and supervision of our course specialist, Dr. Carmencita L. Castolo. For the next 20 minutes, we will explore why training needs analysis, or TNA, is considered the foundation of leadership training, especially for educational managers who are tasked with leading schools and institutions in today's fast-changing world. I am Mr. Jonathan A. Almirante, and my task today is to present to you the purpose and importance of training needs analysis in executive leadership development. By the end of this session, you will be able to first, define what training needs analysis is. Second, understand its purpose in executive leadership development. Third, recognize its importance in the context of educational management. Fourth, to learn about the process of conducting a TNA. And lastly, to see a practical example of how TNA can be applied in real-life educational leadership scenarios. Let's start with a definition. Training needs analysis, or TNA, is a systematic process of identifying the gap between the current skills of leaders and the skills that are required for them to perform effectively. Think of it as a bridge. On one side, we have the current state, what managers and leaders can do right now. On the other side is the desired state, what they must be able to do in order to achieve organizational goals. The gap in between is where training comes in. Without TNA, training programs risk being irrelevant, unfocused, or even wasteful. In simple terms, it helps answer the question, what do our leaders actually need to learn and why? What is executive leadership development? Executive leadership is about shaping senior leaders to navigate complexity, inspire teams, and drive strategic outcomes. We are not talking about basic managerial skills, but rather strategic thinking, change leadership, influence across silos, crisis management, emotional intelligence, and future visioning. These competencies don't develop by chance. They require targeted growth, and that starts with TNA. So, what is the purpose of TNA in executive leadership development? First, it aligns training with organizational goals. Training is no longer random or generic. Instead, it directly supports the mission, vision, and strategic objectives of the school or district. Second, it identifies competency gaps. For example, a school leader may excel in instructional supervision but lacks skills in fiscal management or policy analysis. TNA helps us pinpoint those gaps. Third, it prioritizes development areas. This ensures that limited resources like time, money, and effort are used effectively. And fourth, it improves return on investment. When training is based on real needs, institutions avoid wasting resources in programs that do not produce impact. In short, the purpose of TNA is to make leadership development strategic, focused, and evidence-based. And now, let's go deeper into why TNA is important, especially for educational managers. First, it enhances institutional performance. Well-trained leaders are better decision makers, which ultimately improves teaching, learning, and student outcomes. Second, it builds adaptive leadership. Education is constantly evolving, whether it's policy reforms, community expectations, or technology integration. TNA ensures leaders can adopt and lead effectively in times of change. Third, it strengthens professional growth. When leaders receive training that matches their needs, they feel valued and motivated. Fourth, it supports succession planning. TNA helps identify future leaders and prepare them systematically for higher responsibilities. And finally, it promotes accountability and transparency because training decisions are based on evidence and not assumptions. For educational managers, TNA is not just an academic exercise. It is a practical strategy that drives school success. How do we actually conduct a TNA? The process usually has three levels of analysis. Organizational analysis looks at the goals of the institution. For example, if a school district aims to strengthen digital learning, leaders must also be trained in technology integration and digital leadership. Task analysis examines what competencies are required in specific roles. For instance, executive managers may need skill in strategic planning, data analysis, and stakeholder communication. Individual analysis assesses the current performance of leaders. Do they already have the necessary competencies, or do they need additional training? To gather this information, we can use methods such as surveys, interviews, performance appraisals, focus group discussions, and direct observations. The data collected will guide the design of relevant and effective training programs. Here are the components of a high-impact TNA. First, organizational analysis. This step looks at the bigger picture. What are the school or district strategic goals, and what changes or disruptions like policy shifts, new technology, or budget challenges are coming? The goal is to make sure executive training is aligned with the future direction of the organization. Second, role and competency analysis. Here, we define what is expected of executives now and in the future. This includes the key skills, behaviors, and leadership competencies they need to be effective, such as strategic thinking, decision-making, and influencing across silos. Third is the individual assessment. These focuses on each executive leader's strength and development areas as well as their leadership style. Tools like 360 degrees feedback, executive interviews, and assessments are used to capture a holistic view of each leader's performance and potential. Fourth is the gap identification. Once we know the organizational needs, role expectations, and individual strength, we look for the gaps. Where do current capabilities fall short of what's required? These gaps are the target areas for executive training. And fifth is prioritization. Not all gaps are equally urgent. This step identifies which gaps are most critical to close now in order to achieve strategic success. This ensures resources are used where they have the greatest impact. Sixth is the learning strategy. Finally, we design the training solutions that best fit the needs, whether it's executive coaching, mentoring, stretch assignments, or immersive leadership programs. That strategy should be practical, personalized, and aligned with both the leader's needs and organizational priorities. Here are the tools and methods in executive TNA. To gather a complete and unbiased picture, we use a combination of tools. 360-degree feedback. It collects input from peers, subordinates, and supervisors, giving a well-rounded view of leadership effectiveness. Executive interviews, one-on-one discussions to explore leadership challenges, aspirations, and context-specific needs. We have stakeholder consultations, engaging the Board of Education, C-suite leaders, or community stakeholders ensures alignment with high level of expectations. We have also leadership assessments, standardized tools like Hogan, MBTI, or Korn Ferry measure personality, motivation, and leadership potential. Performance reviews and business KPIs, analyzing past performance and key indicators connects leadership development directly to organizational results. Competency frameworks, mapping required competency against strategic priorities ensures the training supports long-term goals. Together, these tools paint a complete picture of what executives already bring to the table and what they still need to develop. Now, what happens when we skip TNA? Training that's generic or irrelevant. Wasted budget and time. Frustrated executives. No measurable impact. Missed opportunities to prepare for future roles. In short, no TNA is equal to no direction, is equal to no value. Let us recap the key takeaways from today's talk. TNA is the foundation of any successful executive development program. It aligns leadership growth with strategic business goals. It ensures training is irrelevant, personalized, and data-driven. It also increases engagement, effectiveness, and ROI. It helps organizations prepare leaders not just for now, but for the future. Without TNA, executive development becomes a guessing game. With it, we lead with clarity, purpose, and measurable results. Let me share a practical example. A school district introduces a new digital dashboard system to monitor student performance. After conducting a TNA, it was discovered that many principals and supervisors lacked data literacy skills. As a result, a targeted training program on data-driven decision-making was developed. After the training, leaders were able to use the dashboard effectively to identify student needs, improve teaching strategies, and raise student achievement. This example shows that TNA ensures training is not just theoretical, but directly connected to solving real challenges. To conclude, let's summarize the key points. Training needs analysis is the foundation of effective leadership development. Its purpose is to identify gaps, align training with organizational goals, and maximize the impact of training programs. Its importance lies in preparing educational managers to become competent, adaptive, and future-ready leaders. Remember, when leaders grow, schools thrive, and when schools thrive, students succeed. I leave with you this question for reflection. What leadership gaps exist in your institution today? That's where your TNA journey begins. Thank you for listening, and I hope this presentation helps you appreciate the vital role of training needs analysis in executive leadership development. This is Mr. Jonathan Almirante. Thank you and have a great day.
PUP, the first Polytechnic University.